I think it's human nature to share things that we learn, especially when it's something as foundational as improving our own selves. Because for years I thought I wasn't able to get out of the rut that I was in. I was in extreme poverty, we're not able to take care of my family. I was in horrible physical condition, and I was able to get out of the poverty situation and get in much, much better health. I'm by no means in any kind of ideal situation, but I finally found a way after 42 years or 41 years to get out of that rut that I was in and gain some traction in the right direction. And I was able to put together, based on information, I was searching everywhere trying to find information to improve my life, but what happens is there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of phony baloney stuff, but there's also just a lot of information that may not apply to you specifically. So what I did was I tried all these things and it didn't really work, and I just discarded them. But the problem was I was trying them out of order. So this channel is showing you what I tried, what I was actually successful in gaining traction in improving my life, but showing you the correct order in which you can do it. And the ordering is very, very, very important, because if you don't have one thing nailed down, then the next step is going to be impossible. I've tried. It will be impossible. So thank you for checking out this channel, and thank you for making it in this far in this particular video. Hopefully it will be valuable to you and you can improve your life. And so this channel is all about health, fitness, intellectual capabilities, financial situations, improving your financial situations, all these things from a poverty, from some of the lowest possible places where you could be, and bring you up from there. You know, this channel isn't about making you a millionaire or getting you the most perfect physical condition. I haven't achieved those things, but that's where I see a lot of things online. They're like, hey, you know, this guy's in perfect physical condition, but you know, it's hard to take people like that seriously because they're not in the same situation I was. They didn't come from exactly a bad situation and go forward. They just were in decent and then got a little bit better. So that's why I wanted to create this channel, because I hadn't really found anything like it. So anyways, check out more videos. Hopefully they'll help you improve your life. And if they do, please leave a comment, subscribe to this channel, and share it with other people, so that way other people can really benefit from the information that I've basically dedicated my entire life to compile this information. So thank you. So this is very important that you watch these, or at least implement these in order. So this is number 1 out of 16. So this is the first step that I took, and I think that most people need to take in order to accomplish any of the other steps. So this is number 1, and that is taking responsibility. If you don't take responsibility and you're trying to offload and externalize your situation. So to give you an example of this, if you are overweight and you're like, well, I'm overweight because you know, I don't have enough money to buy some proper foods, or I don't live in an area in which I can get certain foods, whatever, fresh foods or whatever, or you know, fast food is very cheap and that's all I can afford, that kind of thing. So these are all things that are like, well, you're coming up with excuses, and these are all things that I did, and that's why I'm bringing them up. I'm not you know, blaming you or anything. These are things that I did. I wasn't able to take responsibility because I was externalizing all the problems and externalizing the cause of all the problems. So once I took responsibility and I was like, okay, it doesn't matter if you know, all these problems that I have are some kind of external force. It doesn't matter. I got to figure out how to shut that down if it is the fact, but usually it's not. It's almost always not the fact that it's some kind of external force. It just seems that way, and we just trick ourselves into believing that because it's easier than facing the responsibility of actually, you know, making changes, fundamental changes in our life. So taking responsibility for everything that's happened to us, everything that we are, all the negatives, all the positives, all the things that we've done, or what's going on with our life, whether it be financial. We are working the job because we choose to go there. We are doing the things because we choose to go there. And now I understand it's really hard to get out of a situation when you're poor. If you're working a job that's like, say, just enough money to get you by to the next paycheck, and there's no opportunity to improve or your income or anything like that, then it's tough. I've been there for years and years and years in that same exact situation. So, but take responsibility, because this is where you have to make hard choices. And this is the first step. Taking responsibility is tough. And, some people say that the hardest part is just getting started. So this is the first step, taking responsibility for everything. And that way you can put it in your hands to change, instead of saying, well, it's some external force that is out of my control and there's nothing I can do. But actually, if you bring it in and you take responsibility, then you have full control over your future. So that's the first step. And I'll expand on all these topics, but this is more of an introduction on the first step, and that is take responsibility. It's important to watch these, or at least implement these in order. This is number 2 out of 16 videos talking about the steps. It's very important, the order. So this is number 2. First one was take responsibility. This one is commit to your self-improvement. Now, there's a differentiator there. If you're taking responsibility, then you're just not externalizing the problem, and you're internalizing it and giving yourself power. But taking responsibility is the first step, which is a prerequisite for committing to your self-improvement. So you have to be 100% committed now that you see that it's your responsibility and it's not some external force, in the cosmos, or your neighbor, or fast food, or the television, or whatever. We'll get to all those things later. But once you take responsibility, you're able to be committed now. If you're not committed, then none of the other stuff's going to work, because you're going to go in half-assed. You're going to do just a portion of it, or you're going to look at it as something that giving up is an option, and then you're going to give up as soon as the going gets tough. Moving forward into something that's hard, you're going to have to be really, really committed. So if you're not committed 100%, 110%, whatever the case may be, like your life depends on it, because it does. If you're unhealthy, if you're in poverty, if you're in a bad situation, you're in bad relationships. If you're unhealthy, there's a health risk right there. You have all kinds of problems with being high blood pressure. I was able to lower I was real high blood pressure. Now I'm completely off blood pressure medicine, and my blood pressure is perfect. I was able to accomplish that. I didn't think I could even do that. So that's a big plus. That's one of the number 1 killers in the United States, is high blood pressure. Okay? If you're unhealthy, that might be an issue. Go ahead and get it checked right now, just to be safe. Check it periodically. Get yourself a blood pressure monitor and make sure that you check that, because that is a huge deal. People are dying of heart attacks and having open heart surgeries and things like that, just because they don't even realize, because their blood pressure is high, because you don't feel anything. If you're having any kind of headaches, any kind of stress headaches, check your blood pressure. Okay? A little side tangent there, but it's extremely important. So when you're committed, like your life is depending on it, because it is, same thing with not having enough money, stressed about money, stressed about finances, being able to take care of your family. If you don't have that and you're constantly stressed about it, then you're dripping cortisol into your blood system, into your body. Even if you're in perfect physical condition, you have this negative cortisol drip, this cortisol underlying this undertow of negativity in your background, which is going to drag you down and could cause like life and death situations. So it is a life and death situation if you don't have your body right, if you don't have your finances right, if you don't have your relationships and everything if you can possibly have, improving yourself, okay, then you're not going to feel good about yourself. There's always going to be something in the back of your mind that you don't feel good about, and it's going to cause problems in the future, major, major problems. So you just have to look around at other people that have major health problems. And you'll see that, these are things that have a lot of it is the choices they make in their life, and that they don't know better sometimes, So if you're committed to your self-improvement, if you have even if you have genetic issues, okay, you learn about your genetic issues, and then you try to take appropriate actions to try to mitigate that negative consequence, the possible consequence. So that goes back to taking responsibility instead of externalizing the problems. So be committed like your life depends on it, because it does depend on it. And your life, if you have children or anything like that, children, grandchildren, spouse, there's other people that rely on you. There's other people that look up to you. You want to be a role model. You want to be somebody that's positive in in your community, positive in your family. So it's your life. You can have a positive life or a negative life. So this is all life and death for me. I mean, I'd rather, it's hard to live and go forward to being a negative influence or a negative person in a community or in a family. It's better to have a positive. That's actually living to me, So it is life or death as far as dying from a heart attack or things, but it's also just living an unfulfilled life is almost like dying in itself in some ways, a slow death. So be committed like it's life and death, because it is life and death. It's very important that you watch these in order. This is number 3. At least implement these in order. You can watch them in any order you want, but make sure you understand the order. That's the whole point of this channel, is to give you information in a certain order. So this is number 3 out of 16, and it is be honest with yourself. And seems simple, yeah, I'm not lying to myself or whatever, but you'd be surprised at how much you actually are lying to yourself. This goes back to the first video, take responsibility. If you're externalizing things and problems that you have in your life, but you're externalizing it as if it's out of your control, that's lying to yourself, because there's so many things that you do have control over. It's just you need to take control over them. So also accepting, like say, normalizing a certain situation, a negative situation. So like I'm in poverty or whatever, or 100 pounds overweight, and you're just like, well, that's just the way it is. No, that's not being honest with yourself. That's not being a positive. You're just suffering through this negative experience, and you're just lying to yourself to justify not making any changes in your life. So these are examples of, make sure that you're just brutally honest, at least with yourself. I mean, you don't have to go around and say, hey, I'm 100 pounds overweight and I feel bad about it, but the main thing is that you don't normalize these negative situations and negative things in your life, because once you do that and you think that that's fine, then you're not going to have the proper motivation to change them. So be honest with yourself, especially. You can't really be honest with anybody else if you're not honest with yourself. So, and it's a tough thing to do, and it takes a while to kind of nail down the things that you're lying to yourself about, or deceiving, or just kind of trickery in some way to avoid the hardship, the hard journey of self-improvement. So anyways, thanks for watching. It's very important that you watch these, or at least implement these steps in order. So this is number 4 out of 16. So make sure that you understand the context here. The first was take responsibility. Second is commit to self-improvement. Third is be honest with yourself. And now it's control your environment. So these are things that if you start with the inside, okay, we're taking responsibility, we're committing to our self-improvement. These are internal mindsets, basically. Now we have to be honest with ourselves. That's another mindset. That's another thing that you have to work on in order to accomplish everything else in the future. So this one is control your environment. These are like things that you're working from the inside out, okay? So that's why the steps are very important. So your environment, your bedroom, okay, your bathroom, or anywhere in your desk, okay, your cell phone, just the closest thing, your clothes, your body, organize things, clean things, make sure they are in a way it's going to make you feel comfortable and going to be, you're not going to be cluttered and giving yourself a hassle because of your disorganization or because of your appearance or your smell or whatever the case may be. Of course, you want to, like, the whole cliche is showing up to a job interview. You want to make sure that you're presentable, okay? But you want to be presentable to yourself. You want your desk to be presentable. You want your bathroom, your bedroom, just your very close environment, everything that's very, very close to you that you experience every day. You want to make sure that you organize it and keep it, tidy and in a positive experience when you are around it, okay? So clean environment, organized environment. Most of us have too much stuff, okay? So getting rid of stuff is a huge, huge deal right there. That's a huge project. I mean, you can just being able to have the mental capacity, especially if you come from a scarcity mindset where are accustomed to not having anything, and then you're hoarding everything because you might need it in the future, So it's a long-term process as far as decluttering, getting rid of things that you don't use on a regular basis, and just clear out your environment, nice and clean, organized. You feel good about being in your environment. You feel good about going in your car. A car is another thing. You get in your car, is there trash in there? Is it dirty? Is there fingerprints all over everything? Is there odors, okay? Cigarettes, smell or anything like that. These are all just things you're not going to feel good about. They're not uplifting. They drag you down, okay? So once you start kind of looking at your close environment, yourself, the things that you just think about, and then you start getting external, like you're external around your body, but very close to you. You're just everything that you come in contact with directly and by yourself. It's a personal matter. Okay, so this is still, yourself. We're not dealing with anybody else quite yet, but these are very important to follow these steps. So clean, structured environment in which you have control of, because controlling your environment gives you control of your life. It makes you feel like you have control, okay? If you don't have control and everything's just disorderly, you feel out of control. You feel like, just things are just in chaos and things are kind of random. Take control of it, grab it, move it, organize it the way you want it. Get rid of crap, Be very forceful and control your personal items. Toothpaste has always been over here. Why is it over there? Put it where you want it to put it. Put things everywhere and be methodical about it. Really take control of everything that you have in your personal, close, environment. It'll make you feel like, hey, I got control of at least this. At least I have control of my mind. Now I have control of my immediate environment. My computer, my phone, I organize everything. Make sure it's just the way you want it and change it anytime you want. You have full control over it, and, take control where you have control first, and then you can move on. It's very important that you implement these in order, watch them in order, mostly implement these in order. This is number 5 out of 16 steps, okay? Just to give you some context. So number 5 is cut negative interactions and be intolerant. And I know a lot of people are out there, and it's trendy or whatever to say, well, I'm tolerant. Tolerant is just, you'll just put up with anything, Be intolerant. There's always a line in which you have to have. You can't just be tolerating everything in your life. But the thing is, cut negative interactions. So if there's somebody that is a negative person, you need to just, like, I'm talking about before they even enter the room, or before you're anticipating being around this person, they just drag you down. Just the thought of being around them is a negative experience. These people, you need to just try any way you possibly can to get away from them. Cut. It doesn't matter if they're family. It doesn't matter who they are. Get them out of your life. Just push them away. Be as rude as you have to be to get them to go away. You don't want to have this bickering fest of back and forth. You want to be just like, okay, done. No more having that person around me and dragging me down. Because if they're around you, let's say you have kids, they're dragging them down too. Your kids are imprinting on them and picking up negative things on them. You're picking up negative things and transferring it to your kids subconsciously. So you need to, because negativity is contagious, just like, positive things. When people see positive things around them, they feel positive and they want to do positive things. The same thing with negative, if there's negative things around them, they kind of drags them down, and they're kind of had this negative attitude, and when they're around other people, which drags them down, it kind of has this rippling effect that goes out into your, sociometry around your people that you're around. The negative ripples out, and the positive ripples out. So you want to get out of that ripple. You want to push that person out of your life. Negative people. So this is controlling your environment. Okay. So previous step was controlling your immediate environment. Just things that you have direct control over. Well, your relationships, when you are choosing to be around somebody, you can choose not to be around those people. It may be hard. It might be hurting their feelings or whatever. But it doesn't matter, because in the end, you're paying the price. You're the one that's going to have to suffer the consequences of their dysfunction, and your children and and everybody that's around them, basically, that chooses to be around them, because you're normalizing that behavior. You're saying, hey, your behavior's fine. I'm being around you when you're negative, so therefore I'm validating and saying your behavior is fine and good, and continue doing it. Some people, when they're cut out and they're ostracized because of their negative behavior, then maybe they need to look at themselves and improve themselves. But as long as everybody's validating and propping up their behavior as if it's normal and validating it, then why should they change? They're getting the respect from other people, and they're getting they're just getting accepted. Their negativity is being accepted. Don't accept it. Don't tolerate it. Push them out of your life, and it will be you need to be able to think. You need to be able to have control of your brain, in order to take responsibility, commit to your self-improvement, be honest with yourself, and control your immediate environment. Then how are you going to do that when you have this negative person just attacking your self-improvement all the time and pushing you back down? It is just working against itself. It's going to cause you more stress. So this is a big one. It's really hard to do, but it is really, really important that you do this before you move on. Very important that you implement these in order. You can watch them in any order you want, of course, but implement these in order. This is number 6 out of 16. So number 6, avoid media that you do not control. So we just talked about in number 5, cut negative interactions. So cut people that are negative in your life. Well, there's so much media that are injecting all this negativity and all this stuff that's, even if it's not negative, it's just a distraction. Okay, so there's all this media everywhere you go. If you have the TV blaring all day, every day in your house, turn the thing off. Matter of fact, throw it out the window, get rid of it. Okay, being exposed to media. Facebook is a good example. Okay, you're scrolling through Facebook. You don't know what's going to pop up there. You don't know what's going to try to capture your mind from this second to the next. Have you ever been on Facebook and you're scrolling and looking through stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, dang, this time's gone. It's like a time warp, because what it does is it's constantly feeding your brain something new to look at, which releases a small amount of dopamine every time there's something that pops up that catches your attention. It may not even be interesting, but it gets your attention. Okay, and once you get your attention focused on something that's that pops up there, it's like this constant dopamine release, and you feel like you have to keep going and keep going and keep going. So this is not a positive thing. Anyway, I think it's a negative. At the very least, it's not a positive thing to be wasting your time on things that you have no control over. What's the point? You want to go in the direction that you want to go into, not with other people, other advertisers, or whatever the case may be. In which that's why YouTube is so successful, because you can search for a particular video that you want to watch in that moment. So in that exact moment, say it's 2 o'clock in the morning, or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever, you can watch on demand that particular video, pause it, come back to it later. It's all fully in your control. So a television where it's just broadcast TV, it's this constant, a television, let's say you even choose to watch a particular show. Well, you have to watch it at that exact time, unless you record it, and then, there's all these commercials popping up or whatever. You want to try to avoid things, any kind of media. It could be on your cell phone, it could be on your computer, it could be on the television, it could be just about anywhere really nowadays, that you don't have control over this media. So avoid it. If you don't have control over it, shut it out. Try to avoid it. I know it's near impossible to 100% avoid it, but try to at least avoid you could probably avoid 90% of it. I'm not exposed to almost like none of that stuff. If I go and promote my other YouTube channel on Facebook, I go in there, promote it, I create the content, I put the content out there. I'm not sitting there consuming a bunch of content and trying to just dull my mind with some kind of pastime or whatever. So anyways, there's lots of media out there. There's way more than you could possibly consume in a lifetime. It's put out there every single day. So go ahead and cut it out unless you're specifically looking for like say if you want to learn how the proper way to perform a particular exercise or whatever, you look for that specific thing, you watch it, and then you move on to anything else that you want to learn. It could be an intellectual thing, could be a financial thing, could be a physical thing. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, then you have control and you choose what you want to watch. And then that way you have more direction. You'll feel like you're in control, and you'll feel like you'll actually get more stuff done because you won't be distracted by all this other crap that is, basically hijacking your brain. It's like a hijack. And it's trying to get your attention and trying to pull you in this direction and that direction and that direction. And so you're never going to get anything done if you're pulled in a million directions and you're not able to say, no, I'm not going to be pulled in all those directions. I'm going to choose what I want to do. I'm going to be in control of my life. This goes back to, take responsibility. You're going to grab a hold of it. You're going to control your environment. You're going to get out the negative people. This takes a level of commitment, which is number 2, that keeps escalating and escalating. So that's very important to make sure that you have the right commitment level, because all these steps are hard, but imperative to actually improving yourself and also making a difference in other people's lives as you do it. Very important that you implement these in order. So this is number 7 out of 16. Now, number 7 is be known or at least do things and be known for your actions and not your words. You don't want people to say, well, this guy's, telling me all this stuff, but what does he actually do in his real life, And that's the part, like right now I'm running my mouth, right? But, in all other areas other than this particular channel where I just talk, I try to actually implement things and do, physically do things and add value and push value out into the market. And so this is valuable too, but it's only after I've achieved. I'm not going to, in the beginning of when I'm 336 pounds, going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to lose weight in the future, and this is how I'm going to do it. Therefore, this is valuable to you. Like, no, it's not. When you actually achieve the goal and how you achieved it, those are the things that are valuable. So be known for your actions, not just your words. And I see a lot of people like going around and, they're saying all this stuff and how they're going to do this and how they're going to do that, but then they never actually do anything. So this is important because it makes you think about what you're saying. It makes you think about, why am I saying it? Am I trying to just get some instant gratification from other people based on just some words and without actually doing without actually doing it? Okay, so if you can go around and say, well, I'm going to do this fantastic thing, and you can convince the other person that you are going to do it in the future, then it kind of gives you that same kind of a similar satisfaction than actually doing it. And then once you get satisfied by that person's reaction, then your level of desire to accomplishment is lowered in some way because you've already achieved that satisfaction of getting the person's reaction because they think you're going to do it. I know it kind of sounds weird, but you know, we kind of trick our brains that way. It's, you know, and that's a dopamine release. When we get some positive reaction with somebody based on our words, it's similar to or getting a positive reaction from our actions. So we don't want to mix those up. We don't want to get confused. We want to just shut up and accomplish some stuff, and then we can say, here's what I accomplished, and do it in the context of, you know, benefiting other people, hopefully, or whatever the case may be. But make sure that they see what you're doing and not just hear what you're doing. So it's important to implement these in order, and this is number 8 out of 16, so we're halfway through. Okay, this, after you finish this would be the halfway point. And so this is stay busy and keep a certain momentum in that busyness. Okay, and I'm not talking about just busy work or whatever. In some case, whatever it takes to stay busy, because once you lose your momentum in whatever you're doing, it's hard to get started, you know. It's like I mentioned before, and it's kind of a cliche that, you know, the hard part is getting started. Well, if you lose your momentum, then you have to start over. You kind of start up again, and that's a hard thing to do. So in the previous step, we're talking about known for actions, not your words. So if you're just talking and not actually doing anything, you're going to not feel right about yourself, and you're kind of tricking yourself into, you're just kind of manipulative or whatever. But once you start taking action, and you're not concerned about talking and getting people's approval and all that stuff, and you're concerned with action, then you want to continue with that action. You want to continue doing it and have a certain momentum. You know, like say with just about anything. Let's say you're an artist. Well, you can't just draw one picture and say, okay, this is my masterpiece. You know, people that draw and have masterpieces have drawn thousands and thousands of crap in the past to get that masterpiece. They have to develop a skill, the 10,000 hours of activity towards, you know, accomplishing a mastery in a particular thing. So this is important. You have to get busy doing something, whatever it is that you're going to do, whatever it is that you're doing. Even if it's in the wrong direction, you don't know if it's in the right direction, still make sure you're doing it, and you're doing it and doing it. Of course, you don't want to do stuff that's bad or whatever, or, you know, it's not the right thing to do. But you want to go ahead and develop it and develop it and develop it to the next level and the next level, the next level. Because, you know, of course, we'll get into that in the future. The bottom of this level, the top of this level is the bottom of the next level. You know, you have to constantly escalate and improve and bring yourself to a, you know, outside of the norm, you know, the novice part of the skill or whatever. So going forward in that, if you're a salesperson, you know, you want to make sure you escalate your activity and keep on escalating, and make sure that you keep a steady activity of, you know, phone calls and talking to people and promotions or whatever the case may be. Okay, so of course this, you know, could be watched by anybody, so I don't want to be too specific, but just whatever you're doing, make sure that you're known for your actions, and that you're doing lots and lots of actions, and you're doing it consistently every single day, and building and maintaining that momentum, so that way you don't have to start all over again, because that's just makes it harder, and sometimes it drags you down, and you know, it doesn't feel good to have to stop. You know, like, oh, I stopped, and, you know, now I'm not feeling good about that, so I got to start up, and then, you know, maybe you don't get to achieve the same level of intensity or the same level of accomplishment as you did before, just because you had that lag in momentum. It's important to watch these or at least implement these in order. So this is number 9 out of 16. So 9 is helping others and add value to other people. And this isn't in the context of like sometimes in, you know, like 12-step programs or whatever, the final step is to help other people, you know, accomplish what you've accomplished. This is in a different way, because this is help you uplift yourself. So you're still in that uplifting stage. You're not actually, you know, you haven't necessarily got that traction yet. You haven't really got that upliftment yet. But this is a way of doing it. So helping other people, if you were to, even if you're not getting any kind of pay or any kind of return, you know, value necessarily, but just helping other people makes you feel good. You know, it helps them, it makes them feel good, and in turn makes you feel good. You feel like you've accomplished something a little bit more than just the daily grind or whatever. So helping other people, kind of going out of your way to help other people, and really listen to them. You know, listening to other people and not telling them so much, but just listening to them. Sometimes people just need somebody to listen to them. That's helping somebody. It could be, maybe somebody is, having a hard time, mowing the lawn or whatever, and you go and help them mow their lawn or what. Just anything that you can think of that is initiated by you. Okay, of course, people. Once you start doing things for other people, then they kind of take it for granted or whatever. But whatever. The main thing is that you feel good about yourself. You want to make sure that you're doing things that will help other people for a selfish reason. You're helping other people to make yourself feel better. Of course, it helps them, but this is still for you to uplift yourself. So there's nothing wrong with being, quote, selfish or self-interested here. This is something that this happens all the time. People, they want to cure cancer. Why do they want to cure cancer? Just to cure people? They want to also do it because they want to make a lot of money. They want to be famous. They want to have the stigma of, hey, I'm the one that cured cancer. So there's positive things in both directions, and that's fine. That's the way things are. And you want to recognize that. So help other people in the community, add value, push out as much value as you possibly can. Do it for free if you have to, whatever the case may be, to push value, look at value, understand value. That's valuable, things that are valuable to you, things that are valuable to other people, and just try to create as much value as you can. Create it from thin air if you have to. Labor is valuable, time is valuable. There's all kinds of things that are valuable. It's all just a variety of people are going to watch this, so I don't want to get too specific, but understand and learn about value, and then try to push it out in your community, push it out into the world as much as possible, and you'll feel better about yourself. So this is 10 out of 16. So you want to make sure you implement these in order. So 10 out of 16. Now this one is a little bit different because it kind of is contrary to what a lot of people say, self-help people, that just recognize that you don't know your full potential, and don't compare yourself to others. Okay, so a lot of other people say, well, you know your potential, but other people don't, right? But that's not really true. You don't even know your potential. I didn't know my potential. I didn't even have a clue that I could even make 1 inch of improvement. So I didn't even know, and I still don't know what my full potential is. So recognize that, hey, your potential could be so much higher than what you think it is. It's almost guaranteed that it's higher. You don't know your potential. You got to work in that direction and figure it out and escalate and escalate and escalate. But you don't know how. All the people that are extremely wealthy, that they're self-made type people, they always say, I never would have dreamed I could have done this. Never would have achieved that I accomplished this or whatever. When people that are really, really high achievers, they're just like, they just can't believe that they've done it, So they didn't know their potential. They just did it. So, and staying focused on accomplishing and going to that next level at all times, you're going to excel and go into areas in which you never thought was possible, which is great. But comparing yourself to others is really so you don't settle. Okay, so if you say, well, I'm better off than this person down the road, or this person over here, or I'm whatever the case may be, then, or I'm average income, or I'm average weight, or something like that, then you're kind of like comparing yourself to other people, which has nothing to do with you personally, So if you want to be really, really improve yourself, just really, really high, then you have to not look at other people as a standard or an average. You just look at, what can I possibly do? What's my full potential? And of course you don't know, but you want to push up as high as you possibly can, because you're uplifting not only yourself, but everybody around you, your kids, your family, future generations. It's amazing what it does to uplift yourself. So you don't know your potential, but you can strive for it anyway. It's important that you implement these in order. So this is number 11 out of 16. Okay, so number 11 is don't settle, keep pushing through. okay? So this is a little bit of an extension of number 10, recognize that you don't know your potential. So in that, this is kind of like a little bit higher level of that you don't want to settle. You want to keep pushing through, and you want to allow your mind to expand more and not limit it. Okay, so once you settle on things, you're limiting yourself, you're limiting your ideas, you're limiting your creativity, all these things. You're like, okay, this particular thing, this particular level, this particular income, this particular, fitness level, or social status, or whatever the case may be, or where you live. It could be a neighborhood that maybe you don't really care about, but you're just like, well, I'll just deal with it, right? Because we can always settle and settle and settle and settle, but settling is going down. When the sand settles, it's going down. It's not going up. So settling is the process of going down. So that's important to think of it that way. That if you're trying to justify a certain level, or you're trying to justify something, and you're settling on it, without going higher, you're going lower. Then of course, if you're going higher, then you're not settling. You're trying to push more. You're trying to push more. So I think it's important to recognize that settling is going down and not up. So this is step 12. You want to make sure you implement these in order. Step 12 out of 16 is, and now we're starting to get some traction here. We're getting in the direction. We're clearing out the path, and we're able to start. All of a sudden, we're pushing forward now. No, we're not. We're clearing. The trail is clear. Okay. Now we can push forward. Now we can escalate. Right. So number 12 is be an expert in something. So whatever it is that you feel good about, whatever it is you felt like, hey, you're interested in when you're a kid, or whatever the case may be, that you just kind of is drawn to, okay? Just like this channel, I'm kind of drawn to do it. It's something that, it's an individual matter. But whatever it is, be an expert in it. Try to become an expert. Of course, you may not feel like an expert. You may feel like, well, if I try to go be an expert, then that's, arrogant, or that's something like that. It's like, no, you want to make sure that you just know as much as you possibly can about it, and go out into the community, and go out into your environment and be an expert. Like, try to be as much. There's always somebody that's going to be smarter. There's always going to somebody that has more experience. There's always going to be somebody like that. It doesn't matter, okay? You go in the direction and try to achieve expert status as far as you possibly can. Be the expert in the world. Be the expert that's known for 1,000 years. Whatever you can to push in that direction, to be the level of expert. And of course, you have to make sure that you're doing the right thing. It's hard to. The hardest part about being an expert is, what are you committed to, that you're going to be able to put in 10,000 hours of activity, 10,000 hours of commitment to become an expert in that particular field or whatever. But let's say you're, stay-at-home parent, right? Be an expert parent. Be an expert in whatever you do. It doesn't necessarily have to be a job that pays you money or whatever, or like a career. That's good. You want that. But you also, if you're in that, that's not your life, that's not your direction, you can be an expert in anything. But this is something that's, you're pushing forward. Now you're going to take yourself to the next level of excellence, clearing out the path, clearing out all the things, clearing your mind, your environment, taking responsibility and being committed. Now it's time to become an expert. Okay, so it's important to follow these in order, implement these in order, I should say. Now this is number 13 out of 16. 13 out of 16 is ignore the past, focus on the future. Now, this isn't a permanent thing, okay, as far as ignoring the past. It could be a temporary thing. Now, in my case, I had to literally, for about 2 years or more, completely just push out of my mind all the past, everything that's happened in the past. I wouldn't even listen to music that I listened to in the past. If it was music that I listened to years ago, I would just shut it out. Listen to just something completely new. You know, I went to websites like SoundCloud and just listened to anything that was new that I liked. It's something that was done that day, preferably. You know, it was something that's fresh and new right then, future stuff, not past stuff. Okay, so when you ignore the past, then you're not distracted by anything, and you're not dragged down by like, oh, remember that time I did this particular thing, and oh my your head just hangs down, and you're just ashamed that you or doing something that you feel bad about, or whatever the case may be. You tend to all the things in the past, you tend to only certain things pop out in this extreme negative or the extreme positives. So 50, you know, a lot of the things you're gonna perceive them as negatives, even though they might not even been negative. You just perceived it to be negative, and it's gonna kind of drag you down by thinking about those things. You know, maybe that's where you're controlling your media. So if you're listening to the radio, okay, which you don't have control over, then all of a sudden a song pops up which reminds you of a negative situation in the past. Now you're feeling depressed. Now you're feeling it's bringing those memories back. It's pulling you down, okay? And could do it right at a crucial moment in which you need to be uplifted, you know? And all of a sudden, bam, you know, you're not controlling your environment. Now this negative thing, this thing that reminded you of something negative is now your mind's racing on all the negativity, and you're not focused on the future. You're not focused on the task that you're doing. And you know, you're not focused. They're certainly not focusing on improvement when you're thinking about the negative in that case, in that particular context. So, you know, at least for a temporary time, push out and try to ignore the negative and only focus on the future. Only focus on whatever potential that you can possibly think of. Think of that stuff and just completely ignore and erase out of your mind temporarily the past. And that really helped me out, that particular mindset. So this is important that you implement these in order. So this is number 14 out of 16. So number 14 out of 16 is create more, consume less. Okay, so you know you're becoming an expert. You're doing all these things in the past that were talked about. You're taking control of your life. You're pushing out the negativity. You're forgetting about the past. Now it's time to create things. Consuming things, like say, like in my case, when I started my car channel, I never really consumed car channel material. I didn't consume the other videos about cars. I just created the car channel out of thin air with zero, like I was completely ignorant to what I was ignorant to what I was ignorant about. But it didn't matter because I was moving forward. I was taking action, and I was creating something that wasn't there before. So I grabbed my camera. I had a little pocket camera, $20 or $30 pocket camera, and figure out a way to stabilize it with a little stabilizer. And I'd run out there and I would video a car while I had some free time at the dealership. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just showing, like, hey, I was thinking, like, well, if I was just showing this to, my son or somebody else, like, what would I say? Like, okay, whatever the case may be. I didn't edit it. I didn't do anything. I just turned on the camera, videoed, and then brought it in, uploaded it straight off the camera. And that was my first videos. It was all action. It was all creation. It was just doing something, moving forward, and learning and adjusting on the way, And now my channel is, pretty much one of the top channels for a one-man show YouTube channel anyway. And of course, I can't compete with multi-million-dollar companies, but as far as an individual person putting out content on new cars, shows up high on the search results. I get, fairly decent amount of views, and I get a mostly positive response from just about everybody who watches the videos. So that's a way to create instead of just consuming, because you can get in this rut, like, okay, well, I'm not ready to start yet, so I'm just going to consume. I'm going to try to learn. But while you're consuming other people's content before you create something, you are being influenced by their content. So now you may just rehash what they're doing, okay? So this is an area in which it's not 100%. It's not like you have to, only create and never consume or anything like that. This is just something you want to think about when you're over consuming or you're overdoing things. You want to try to learn by doing as much as you possibly can. Even if you get started by consuming information, then you take that information and start implementing it and implementing it and implementing it. Learn by doing and push out and create things, things that other people can consume. Whether it be physical objects, it could be digital content online. It could be a book, write poems, anything that you can put out there where other people can consume it, you're creating something. And the more they consume it, the more valuable it is typically, because then if it wasn't valuable to them, then they wouldn't even bother with it. So that's kind of your gauge on whether it's valuable to other people. If you're going in the right direction, it gives you that gauge automatically. If you don't have that interaction, you're not creating content, and you're not getting feedback, and you're doing that kind of thing, then you don't know if you're necessarily going in the right direction. You need that instant feedback before you even know what the heck you're doing. Become an expert by doing it. Be a novice while doing it, and then you'll eventually become an expert by doing it. Don't get tripped up on just consuming and consuming and never actually getting started. You want to get started, even at the lowest, pretty much any knowledge level. You want to just get going, just do something, and it will push yourself and motivate yourself to accomplish more and be better and better and better. You're always constantly thinking, well, how could I make this better? How could I make this better? And it gives you an incentive to be better. Okay, we're getting close to the end of this whole series, 15 out of 16. So it's important that you watch these or implement these in order. So this is number 15 out of 16 steps. So 15 is always strive to get to the next level. There's always a next level. And this is something that even if you see other people achieve such this great thing, okay, there's always a next level above that. Okay, and that's where comparing yourself to others could limit yourself, because you achieve what the other person achieved, and then you kind of like, well, that must be the highest limit possible. There's always a next level. There's always an improvement. Like you see athletes and stuff like that. Like people were stuck at, I think it was they never were able to get under a 4-minute mile or something. And then once one person did it accidentally or whatever, then all of a sudden everybody like, oh, that's possible. Then everybody else started doing it. It was just like this mental block, I guess, of achievement. I don't know all the details. That's just an example, but so you can understand what I'm talking about. You look at taking things to whatever next level it is, whether next level of quality, next level of value to other people, next level of virtuous behavior, next level of whatever the case may be. Let's say you're just a parent, you're a stay-at-home parent. Well, what's the next level of, because the kids are going up to next level constantly. They're always constantly growing and expanding. So you have to constantly grow and expand and try to, accommodate them as in a productive manner, so they can grow up and be, the best they can possibly be. So taking things to the next level it's like you can do it in steps. Okay, so if you ever like walk up a flight of steps and the steps are like really far apart, right? It's kind of harder to kind of push yourself up from one step to the next, versus you have a step that has little tiny steps. Okay, sometimes you have to have like this little tiny step at a time just so you can get past this certain parts. Sometimes you take this giant leap. Depending on where you're at, what you're doing, you're able to adjust the steps, adjust the levels in which you climb. Sometimes it's the massive step, At first it may be just tiny steps, and even if you have to take a step, stop and take a breather or whatever, you want to make sure that you're constantly pushing and pushing and pushing to take those steps up, even if it's a millimeter at a time, whatever it takes to go to, if your next level is 1 millimeter up, then go up 1 millimeter. You constantly push, and that way it'll become easier. It won't be such a hard thing once you get the mindset and the motivation to do it. Once you're motivated and you have all these things, everything starts to come together, and you're starting to implement these steps, and then you gain traction on, you're feeling better, you're looking better, you're getting more income, you're helping more people, you're just overall better life. You feel better, and then you're like, well, shoot, I want to do more. So that's where the next level is. There's always looking for that next level. Write down ideas all the time. Always keep a pen and paper near you, next to your bed, in your car, wherever you go. Have a pen and paper on you, so that way you can write down ideas. Just write them down. If you have an idea, write it down. Ideas are great, but you have to implement them. So if you can't implement them, if you forget them. So it's important to write down as many ideas as possible, put them together, cluster them together, expand on them, whatever you possibly can, to push yourself on all those different levels. And you'll see it'll help out a lot. Okay, so this is important for you to implement these in order, and this is number 16 out of 16. So all the 16 steps lead to this, okay? And what it is basically an extension of number 15. Number 15 is taking everything to the next level, right? Well, number 16 is never quit. And in my case, I never plan to retire. Okay, the whole idea of retiring is quitting what you're doing. Okay, so if you quit what you're doing, then you stop improving and you crash. You know, I could imagine, you know, if I'm going in the right direction, I'm doing all these positive things, and then I were to stop doing those, then, I mean, why would you do that? You know, try to push out and expand as much as you possibly can, because you have a life to live. And if a portion of that life you're stopping, what are you doing? You're just wasting time or whatever. What are you doing? So never quit, okay? Never quit, no matter what it is. If it's a small task, you want to make sure that you get it done. You know, like I said before, ideas are great, but they're completely worthless on a piece of paper. They have to be implemented, and they have to be implemented to completion successfully. So in order to do that, you have to push through, and you have to never quit, because if you quit, then it's not going to be finished. It's not going to be implemented, and it's not going to have any value. You basically have negative value because you just wasted your time trying, and then you quit. So quitting has a small context and then the large context as far as retiring. So you may change focus, you may change careers, you may change things, but you're going forward and you're trying to escalate and go improve yourself constantly. It doesn't matter what it is. You want to go up, 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 no matter what, until you die. You know, keep going forward, because you don't know what your potential is. You don't know. There's lots of people that they thought they achieved everything in their entire life. They were completely satisfied, okay? And then they accomplished something that blew that out of the water, and they didn't even know that they can accomplish it. And it was like they lived this entire second lifetime just because they were able to accomplish just this whole nother level of accomplishments, whatever the case may be. In this case, it was a writer. But no matter what you're doing, whatever it is that you're passionate about, whatever it is that drives you, if you keep on going and keep on pushing, then you can accomplish way more than what you could possibly imagine. That leads back to you don't know your potential. But as soon once you quit, once you reach a point where you're going to stop, then you know your potential, and that is basically giving up. You know, so that's the final step. You want to concentrate on your legacy. Now, here's something that might make you motivated for this whole. It might seem like, well, if I can't retire, then it seems some people see that as a negative thing, but I see retirement as a negative thing or whatever. But if you're not doing what you love to do, if you're not doing what you're happy doing, or if you're not happy doing what you're doing, I should say, then you don't have to retire away from it. See, retirement, in my mind, is you want to stop doing it because you want to do what you want, right? Well, why are you doing it to begin with if you don't want to do it? Do what you want to do your whole life, not just the last 10 years or 20 years of your life. And then, of course, if you're doing it when you're older and you might not have enough money or whatever the case may be, then all of a sudden you're still in this other trap, one trap to another trap. So just do what you want. Try to figure out a way to do what you want that's going to be uplifting to everybody else and to yourself, and just keep moving forward with that. So what I was going to say, something that's going to make you really feel possibly maybe feel really motivated in this is think about how people are going to remember you in 1,000 years, okay? Like if whatever you do, let's say you're an electrician or a plumber, and then you work for 20 years or whatever, and then you retire, it's hard to imagine that people would remember you in 20 years, okay? I mean 1,000 years, sorry. 1,000 years from now, what can you possibly do that's going to stand out to benefit other people to the level of you're remembered in 1,000 years from now? So I'm actually standing in front of a graveyard over here, and all these people lived and died and 1,000 years from now, what are they going to be known for? What is it that they will be known for? What is it that I'm going to be known for? These are kind of questions that it's not really easy to answer, but it's something that I think is very important for us to think about, because we're thinking about outside of our lifetime, you know? So that's bigger. That's a broader spectrum. If you just take like a calculator and say, okay, well, I was born, like in my case, I was born in 1974, okay? So if I were to just say, let's say my life expectancy is, 85 or whatever, right? So I just add 85 to that and look at that number, and it's like, okay, I'm going to live to this particular date. And well, shoot, this date is not that far from that date, relatively speaking, okay? So what are you gonna do in that time? Even if you're 20 years old and you're gonna live to 80, expectedly or whatever, you don't know when you're gonna die, but let's say you think, okay, I'm gonna live till I'm 80, and you're 20 years old. Well, shoot, that's 60 years. But 60 years goes by super fast. Just ask somebody who's 60 years old, and they'll tell you that their life went by pretty darn quick, depending on their choices, of course. So think about that. Think about legacy. Think about 1,000-year stuff, 20,000 years, whatever the case may be. I think 1,000 years, because that is within a realm of time in which we can think of history, different historical events that happened 1,000 years ago, and we can actually study people that lived 1,000 years ago. So what did they do? Study people in the past. What did they do to stand out to where we remember and we study these people now? So anyways, just the different things to think about. Thank you for watching. This has been the 16 steps. This is the final step, and there probably will be some other steps wedged in, or some ideas or expansions of these different steps in the future. And of course, you can add more information in the comments, and make videos and share them with me, and I'll share them too. Things that actually got you and pushed you forward. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.